Liberation and enlightenment are easier than we've been led to believe. What if liberation did not entail losing the ability to experience certain quote-unquote problematic emotions? What if liberation was nothing other than practicing the Eightfold Path? And what if the Eightfold Path was nothing mysterious? It was just very, very simple. What if mentally the Eightfold Path was simply being open to impermanence, the unsettling fact that things, beings, and phenomena are always changing, and often at times we wish they rather wouldn't? But what if liberation was simply a question of embracing, loving, wishing love, allowing ourselves to wish good things, not just for ourselves, but for all beings everywhere? What if the path of liberation was paved? What if 50% of the path of enlightenment was loving kindness, and 75% of that pertained to kind communication, kind conduct, and kind commerce? What if the behavior that leads to enlightenment was to simply practice mindfulness and meditation with joyful enthusiasm, making sure that the methods we are using are effective and sustainable? Now that we've defined what liberation is, what is enlightenment? So enlightenment doesn't mean we're magic. It doesn't mean we're Gandalf the Grey. It doesn't mean we're Galadriel the Golden. It simply means we've mastered the Eightfold Path. And we can master any skill. Once we've mastered any skill, we practice it spontaneously, habitually, easily, and effectively. So how do we get to that point? Well, there are two ways of doing that, through physical mastery and mental mastery. Let's begin with physical mastery. Now, we don't have to be like Daniel San, and learn how to do the moves from Mr. Miyagi. All we got to do is learn how to sit sustainably. Sit in a way with our legs comfortably crossed, with our head over our shoulders and our shoulders over our tush, and with a nice vertical traction between our head and our tush. We can train ourselves to sit for 5 minutes every 12 hours or so the first week. And on the second week, we can increase that to 10 minutes. The third week, we can increase that to 15 minutes. And the fourth week, up to 20 minutes. Adding 5 minutes every week. By the end of the 12th week, you could have grown comfortable sitting for 60 minutes every 12 hours or so. An easy way to facilitate that is twofold. Number one, use the countdown timer built into your phone. Most of us have a phone. And number two, come to the live streams. Whether you can, there are different time zones. I broadcast a live stream 9 times out of 10 every 12 hours. And you're welcome to come. Everything I do is free. And if you can't attend live, you can always attend one of my live streams that are saved here on YouTube. They're approximately every 12 hours, so they're easy to find, easy to catch. Set your timer for 5 minutes, and after 5 minutes, leave, hit the road. Make it like a tree. But if you do that, within 3 to 4 months, you could have become physically ready for enlightenment. You can train mentally simultaneously, and it's as simple as coming to the live streams. When you have a question, type it in great detail in the chat window, and I'll be delighted to answer your questions, or at least the questions pertaining to Buddhist chanting, Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, and their application. I can't tell you how many licks it takes to get to the Tootsie Pop center of a Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop. Sorry, there are limits to my knowledge. So according to the Satipatthana Sutta, we can complete this training in 7 years, or 7 quarters, or 7 months, or 7 fortnights, or 7 weeks, or even 7 days. And no, this isn't for special people. This isn't only work in a special place. This doesn't only work at a special time. This is for anyone. And if someone tells you otherwise, thank them for their time and get away from them, because they're trying to justify, minimize, and rationalize why their stuff doesn't work. Oh yeah, call me idealistic. I like the idea that this can work, and I'd rather doubt myself than doubt humanity's ability to master the Buddha's path. How about you? I look forward to chanting and meditating with you this evening after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I spent more than 8 hours a day, every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each sect of Buddhism and Taoism so that you wouldn't have to. Welcome to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. This evening, let's play with the sadhana of the Heart of Wisdom Sutra, attributed to Quan Chi and Pusa, compiled, adapted, and amplified by yours truly from traditional sources. We're going to begin by training in the second, first, and sixth folds of the Eightfold Path in a very easy and efficient way through the power of recitation. These recitations are not prayers to real or imagined entities. They're simply tools we use to guide and strengthen our intention. We're going to play with a set of intentions known as bodhicitta and refuge. The first version is going to be very, very literal. We're setting it to a triplet chant together. May I liberate all beings from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging by relying on thee, Buddha's example, instructions, and students. So consider for a moment these 3 nouns. They're so useful that they've earned the metaphoric nickname of the 3 wish-fulfilling jewels, not unlike Aladdin's lamp. This version of the same intention is more concise and more figurative. We're reciting it, we're setting the recitation to a bookend chant, which is my go-to chant, really. Together. May I liberate all beings by relying on the 3 jewels. May I liberate all beings by relying on the 3 jewels. May I liberate all beings by relying on the 3 jewels. As children, 9 times out of 10, our first bicycle came with training wheels, and although they were ungainly, they got the job done. Similarly, this evening's first meditation exercises are also going to be ungainly. During each inhalation, let's remind ourselves to apply a vertical traction between our head and our tush as we inhale. Simultaneously, let's silently and mentally recite or perform the 12-syllable recitation, perceiving this very turbulent play of mind. During each exhalation, let's physically relax as best we can, while reciting relaxing into mind's non-graspable nature. Let's practice this together right now as a team. And remember, the moment you have a specific question about Buddhist chanting, Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or how to apply them, simply type your question in great detail in the chat window. Let us turn our attention to the recitation and explanation of the Heart of Wisdom Sutra. It is so, by the way, whenever you see something that is standard, That's from the traditional sources. When you see it in italics, that's me paraphrasing. And when you see something in parentheses, that's what we call an amplification. It is the Quan Chi Yun Pusa, an archetype of love and letting go, while moving in the deep peace of the perfect understanding of awareness and release. Shed light on the five aggregates and found them equally empty. After this realization, she made peace with all pain. So here's how it works. Whatever pain we experience, let's rephrase this. As we during each exhalation, thanks to our parasympathetic nervous system, we're wired to physically relax and mentally release. As we do that, whatever pain we perceived during our previous inhalation can now feel as if it was as non-graspable as a vast, empty void. Like the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although is tantalizing to the eye, is non-graspable to the hand. Now let us remove the first of two metaphoric training wheels, thus reducing our contemplative exercises from 12 syllables per breath down to just 3. During our inhalation, we could silently and mentally recite, "Notice this," and during our exhalation, we could silently and mentally recite, "Relaxing." Together. Listen, Shariputra, form is emptiness, emptiness is form. Form does not differ from emptiness, emptiness does not differ from form. The same is true with feeling, appraisal, impulse, and awareness. The five aggregates, or five heaps, is nothing special. It's just one of many ways of organizing our experience. Think of it this way. The five aggregates are like a finger that's pointing out us to the moon, the full moon of wisdom. If we get focused on the finger, we will never enjoy the radiance of the full moon. Similarly, if we get lost in the pseudo-intellectualism that chases after so-called metaphysics, we will be missing out. So I'm going to take a moment to demystify the five aggregates for you. Form is just a fancy word for body. Feeling is just a fancy word for sensations that are pleasurable or painful or neither. Appraisal is just measuring the intensity or the volume of the pleasure or pain we're experiencing. You know, a little bit, a lot, somewhere in between. Impulse is our knee-jerk, instinctual survival and response to either shove something away or reach for something. It's very, very primal. Awareness is simply, well, it reminds me of a phrase used by the Japanese masters of Soto Zen. Thought, no thought. And that goes back to what I mentioned a few moments ago. Whenever we relax into our exhalation, whatever thought we experienced during our previous inhalation can now feel as if it was as non-graspable as a vast empty void. Now let's remove the second of two metaphoric training wheels and reduce our contemplative exercise from 3 syllables per breath down to just 1. During our inhalation, let's silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this. During the exhalation, let's silently and mentally recite the monosyllabic verb ease, which functions as a synonym of relax. It is not our job to try to believe that things are empty or non-existent or illusion. That's what we call missing the forest for the trees. When we breathe, we notice. When we inhale, we notice, thanks to our sympathetic nervous system. When we exhale, we relax, thanks to our parasympathetic nervous system. If we let the autonomic nervous system do its work, we will be happy and well-adjusted. If we don't, we'll be neurotic and miserable. Together. Listen, Shariputra, phenomena are marked with emptiness. They are neither produced nor destroyed, neither corrupted nor purified, neither increasing nor decreasing. So, we're speaking figuratively. So, we're not saying nothing's produced. We're saying there's nothing produced that we can perceive that we cannot release. There is nothing destroyed that we can perceive that we can't release. There's nothing corrupt that we can, there's no corruption that we can perceive that we cannot release. There's no purification that we can perceive that we cannot release. Now you might justifiably say, this is clunky. It is. And it's a literary device. Sometimes things are awkward to help us remember. Kind of like when you were a kid, you ever told if you want to remember something, tie a piece of string around your finger. I thought that was kind of lame. The idea is that if something sticks out, it's going to make us remember more. So there's nothing wrong with saying there are dualities. I'm comfortable with dualities. There's a difference between dog do and chocolate. I'm happy with that duality. But it's my job to notice things and release. It's all our jobs. That's what we're wired to do. Now, releasing is not a one-time thing. With every inhalation, we're going to notice all manner of things. With but if we want to be healthy and happy, then we have to let our parasympathetic nervous system do its job of releasing during each exhalation. Now that we've reached cruising altitude, together as a team, let's meditate as transformatively as Yoda on Dagobah under the guidance of the Force Ghost of Qui-Gon Jinn. There is a teaching. Let me know if you've heard this before. When you're meditating, don't close your eyes. You're not here to hide from reality. You're here to confront reality. The question is not whether or not that's taught. The question is that literal or figurative? And the answer is, it's figurative. We do not hide from our perceptions. Whether we perceive the external or the internal, the physical or the mental, the pleasurable or the painful, the interesting or the boring, the glorious or the grotesque. We acknowledge what we experience as we breathe in with the silent and mental recitation of the word this, and we relax and release as we breathe out, as silently and mentally we recite the verb ease. Together. Therefore, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no appraisal, no impulse, and no awareness that once perceived cannot be released. And so you've noticed we've transitioned from emphasizing the idea of emptiness to emphasizing the idea of no. And once again, this is not nihilism. We're not saying things, we're talking figuratively. Whatever we notice during our inhalation, we release during our exhalation as if it wasn't there. This is not because we're clever. This is not because we're philosophically gifted. It's because we're wired that way. And we're simply using the big old 3-pound supercomputer between our ears to do nothing but get out of the way of our autonomic nervous system. And we do that through the cunning use of words. Now, sometimes we will feel great resistance to our perceptions, emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. So when that happens, we can play with words. We can play with labels. So if we are resisting a perception, for instance, a physical perception, we could silently and mentally recite form, ease. If we find ourselves resisting an emotion, feel, ease. If we find ourselves resisting a memory, then, ease. If we find ourselves resisting a flight of fancy, dream, ease. Now, it's not our job to neurotically exhaust ourselves, trying to determine the perfect label. 9 times out of 10, the perfect label is going to be this. When something is beating you up and shaking you like a French au pair, metaphorically speaking, then play with these labels if you wish. The job is not to push the experience away. The job is not to transcend the experience, but rather our resistance to the experience. together. We're going to now deconstruct the three circles of experience, beginning with our objects of perception. No sensation, no flavor, no scent, no sound, no sight, no phenomena that once perceived cannot be released. We now explore the organs of perception together. No body, no tongue, no nose, no ears, no minds, let's try this again. No body, no tongue, no nose, no ears, no eyes, no mind that once perceived cannot be released. We've explored the objects of perception, the organs of perception, and now we're going to explore the act of perception. No feeling, no tasting, no smelling, no hearing, no seeing, no noticing. The ones perceived cannot be released. Together. No interdependent origins and no extinction of them. From confusion to aging and death, the ones perceived cannot be released. So, on one hand, we have causality. On the other hand, we have emptiness. Superficially, they might appear to be mutually exclusive. But whatever causality we notice as we inhale, we can release as we exhale. Whatever emptiness we notice as we inhale, we can release as we exhale. For those who traverse the path of yang, who tend to be very rigid, Buddhism is difficult. For those who traverse the path of yin, who practice flexibility, who can conceive that not all statements are literal, but that some, if not many, are figurative. For them, enlightenment is an easy thing. Together. No stress, no exacerbation, no liberation, no path. No understanding, no attainment that once perceived cannot be released. Because there is no attainment that once perceived cannot be released. The Bodhisattva archetypes of awareness and letting go supported by the perfection of understanding find no obstacles for the minds that once perceived cannot be released. So remember, we're not shoving away obstacles, we are releasing our resistance to obstacles. together. Having no obstacles that once perceived cannot be released, they transcend the tyranny of fear, liberating themselves forever from the tyranny of illusion and realizing perfect nirvana. Notice, it's not the presence of fear we're liberated from, but our resistance to fear. It's not the presence of illusion, but the tyranny of illusion. All Buddhas of the past, present, and future things to this perfect understanding of noticing and releasing. Arrive at full right and universal enlightenment. Therefore, one should know that this perfect understanding of noticing and releasing is like a great mantra, is like an unequaled mantra. The destroyer of the tyranny of all suffering, the incorruptible truth. A mantra of Prajnaparamita's perfect wisdom of awareness and release could therefore be proclaimed. This is the mantra Gate Gate Para Gate Para Samgate Bodhi Swaha. May all beings go completely and perfectly go to enlightenment. Let's seal this evening's practice by reviewing the third, fourth, and fifth folds of the Buddha's Eightfold Path, and then concluding with the four immeasurables. May all beings practice of kind communication, conduct, and calmness was spontaneous and uncontrived. Let's conclude by reviewing the first and second folds of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. May everyone be free from misery, may everyone be happy, may no one be separated from the happiness. May everyone have balance from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging freed. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 10 3/4 hours, I would very much like to return to lead tomorrow's early meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.